So when we look at the standings again, you got the Bills leading the East, Steelers in the North, Texans in the South, and the Chiefs in the West across the AFC. In the NFC, you got the Commanders in the East, the Lions in the North, the Falcons in the South. Who's that last one down there, Tim? And the Cardinals in the West. Go ahead and pull that back up. I apologize, buddy.
I just thought that was funny. Holmes in the chat. Dallas has been done since we stole their souls last season in the playoffs.
Hey, listen, Holmes, you're not kidding. Like, that shook that whole organization. There's no two ways about it, Tim. Like, you could tell they came into this year like, all right, we got everybody's on the hot seat. Is the way Jerry Jones.
They got embarrassed. They got absolutely embarrassed because they talked a lot of smack going into that game. That was a definite example of a team thinking, hey, we're the better team. We got the better record. We got the home game. And you got boat raced.
And it's a perfect example, too, of like, listen, they had 3 really expensive players to pay this year. You had to pay Dak. You had to pay CeeDee Lamb. And I still don't think they paid Micah Parsons. He's up for a contract, too, or at least he's wanting a new contract. So you had those 3 players. All 3, I personally think, are worthy of a contract. But they had the opportunity to go get Derrick Henry. Right, Derrick Henry. If you put Derrick Henry in that offense, like who was it that said it down here? Nick McSwain. Cowboys have 0 run game. Nick, imagine if Derrick Henry was their starting running back. Yep. Derrick Henry is leading the league at 1,052 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. You put him in that offense, and teams having to stack that box, and now it opens everything up over the top for like a CeeDee Lamb and some of these other receivers. Holy cow, man.
What a monster, man. There's like 7 games left of the season. This guy's already over 1,000 yards. No big deal.
Yeah.
Guy's just a truck.
A great point by Nick, too, saying how many All-Pros did Cowboys have last year? The Packers had 0. They had a few, if I remember correctly. Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott. I'm pretty sure Dak Prescott was because he was like top 3 in every statistical category last year.
Yep.
Trying to think. Probably somebody else. What's that?
CeeDee Lamb, did he get All-Pro last year?
I don't know if he did or not. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he did.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, again, as far as most passing yards, top 5, you got Geno Smith at 2,560 yards. Then you got Baker Mayfield behind him. Lamar Jackson having a heck of a year. Kirk Cousins with the Falcons having a good year, too. That seemed to be – listen, they caught a lot of grief last year, Tim, for signing okay, my bad, Holmes, if that's not what you meant, man. So, anyway.
How dare you?
Kirk Cousins, they caught a lot of grief with that signing in Atlanta.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Like, to me, it makes a lot of sense to, like, have a veteran and then draft a quarterback to sit behind him. That's kind of been the Packers' business model this whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was our reaction. We talked about that offline. We were like, oh, Kirk's going to go down there and ball out. I mean, we saw that coming,
Yep. Number 1 Packer fan said, yeah, he didn't mean that at you, Clayton, LOL. Okay, sorry, Holmes. I apologize. That's my mistake, man. Please accept my apology. I thought you were saying who cares, like move on, talking about something else. So that's my bad.
Heard it from a fan right here.
I got that Irish in me, man. So I apologize. Anyway, running game, Derrick Henry, 1,052 yards. Just wild. The fact that he's got so many runs over 20 mile an hour, I keep going back to that because he is an absolute tank, man. Absolute tank.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, you ever see that clip of him talking about his high school days, and how the coach would have him at like 40 or 50 carries a game, that they would just give him the ball? And he's like, yeah, I look back on it now, he's probably overworking me a little bit. And it's like, look at the career this guy's had. I mean, he's the definition of a workhorse running back. I mean,
right.
That guy is just high motor, high skill, high energy, and just freaking impossible to tackle. And you just see it now here as a pro.
Yeah, he's a stud. And listen, there were many people that were like, Derrick Henry's getting older. He's had a lot of tread wore off. Like they ran him into the ground in Tennessee, which, by the way, the fact that Tennessee traded away Derrick Henry and he's leading the league in rushing, and then they also traded away D-Hop and immediately has an impact for the Chiefs is like, no wonder your organization is a dumpster fire. I understand trading D-Hop, but the whole not signing Derrick Henry back, like, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. You got a young quarterback. You're wondering why he's struggling because he doesn't have a run game to lean on, But
yep.
Holmes in the chat said, I meant I meant that the Cowboys are not good despite how many all-pros they have. Clayton's sending me the smoke laughing emoji. My bad. Again, Holmes. And it's true. Like, people put a lot of stock in that stuff, right, with the all-pros and the Pro Bowls and all that. And it's, to me, man, it's just all about winning that one.
Here we go.
All right. Let's see what else we got here on this graphic. So most receiving yards, Justin Jefferson doing Justin Jefferson things, man. Holy cow, 783 yards receiving. Jamar Chase, 717 yards. Let's see.
Look at the two LSU teammates just dominating the top of the league right now.
Yeah, it's amazing, too, how a couple of weeks ago there were many people like, Garrett Wilson's one of the best receivers in the league, and he's struggling with Aaron. It's Aaron's fault. Garrett Wilson's third in the league in receiving.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like,
he's still getting more targets than Tay Adams, despite all the talk.
Yeah, definitely. CD Lamb, 660 yards, so having a pretty solid year there. And then Zay Flowers for the Ravens, 654, which, by the way, Lamar last night, man, that dude is unbelievable, Tim. Like,
yeah,
when I seen him come out of college, I questioned that, man. I really, really, really had, like, my reservation. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's going to transition to the NFL. And then you get a couple years in, he wins an MVP, and then they're like, okay, he's going to change more into a pocket passer. I'm like, that's not his game. Flip the switch, one of the best passers in the league. It's just Lamar's going to go down as one of the greats. I'm kind of rooting for him if the Packers don't, have an opportunity to play for a Super Bowl. I'm kind of rooting for him to win a Super Bowl, man. He seems like a great guy.
Tell you, you look at Lamar's career, and there's proof of how difficult it is to win a Lombardi trophy. It is not easy to get to or win a Super Bowl. A guy like Lamar, man, knocked on the door so many times, just can't get over the hump, right? And it's not for lack of talent or skill. Like you said, the guy's adapted his game. That was the thing that I think got him to where he is now, where we talk about him, in the light that we talk about him, is the fact that he did adapt his game. He is able to stand in that pocket and pick apart a defense as well as tuck in and run. And it's really hard to scheme against a guy like Lamar Jackson. It gives DC's hell all the time. I think even Cam Newton was like that in his prime. Just impossible to scheme against a guy who can beat you with his legs and his arm. So, hats off to Lamar Jackson right now for sure.
Yeah. Nick McSwain in the chat said Jamar Chase went off last night. He had like 250 yards. Nick, it was wild, man. That dude, he's a real deal. He might be the best receiver in the league, to be honest with you. And you see these numbers, they have him at 717 yards, Tim. That was obviously before the game last night. So now if they were all receiving yards, and he may be exaggerating a little bit, let's just say it was 200, he immediately jumps up to 917, probably going to be leading the league after this week, I would imagine. So just wild that they've got that. Holmes says that was crazy. And then Nick McSwain said 11 catches, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, and they lost. LOL. Another good example, Tim. Receiver isn't like this position that's just like everybody falls in love with it because you see those numbers, right? And those are very, very gaudy numbers, putting points on the board and all that. But receivers should always be the last piece you put in place. If you land one like Jamar, it doesn't mean you trade him away or you move on when you don't have the other things. It just means you don't go out and try to grab that specific position when you got holes in these other top tier positions. Yep. You know what I mean? Like,
you get a guy like Jamar Chase, man, you start looking on the other side of the ball, maybe start loading up on your defense a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Nick McSwain says, crazy how much the Ravens defense has regressed this year. Their DC was a big loss. That's something that really doesn't get talked about enough. And it kind of happened in Green Bay in 2022. A lot of the coaching staff gets pulled out of there. And now as a head coach, you got to back up. All right, who's the best people to put in position? I think that's way more difficult than people realize, as far as trying to replace assistant coaches and coordinators and everything. Because when they lost, I think, was it Mike McDonald that went to Seattle, I believe. That's a real thing. There's no two ways about it. So,
yep.
All right. Let's see. Let's go on to offensive yard.
Like Kansas City, right? If they didn't have Spags, I bet you they'd regress defensively.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it, man. Spags is one of those guys that I don't think he'll ever be a good head coach. Michael Lombardi was talking about that the other day. Some guys are good head coaches, some guys aren't. Some guys are just great coordinators. I think Spags is that. Spags is going to go down as a possibly a top 10 defensive coordinator in the history of the league.
Yep.
As a head coach, I mean, he's the bottom of the barrel.
You know what's
Right.
crazy is I used to think that about Dan Quinn, after, the move out of Atlanta, then, he goes to Dallas and kind of gets their defense, back where it needs to be. And I thought, oh, maybe this is an example of one of those guys. Hey, he's better suited as a coordinator. But it's like now you see him over in Washington. Look at what Washington's doing right now. So clearly that guy's a legit head coach.
Right. Nick McSwain said he had 264 yards, actually. Just check. That's crazy. Jamar Chase going off. All right, as far as team offensive yards per game, the Ravens lead the league at 445.9. 49ers at 412.4. People are looking at the Niners like they suck. Not the case, guys. They still have a very, very potent offense. Got to be prepared for that game coming up, no doubt.
They're getting McCaffrey back soon, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it might happen this week.
Here's the guy.
We will know. Let's see, when is that game again? 1 o'clock window on Sunday, right, at Tampa. So we'll keep our eye on that for sure with him coming up. I wonder if he'll be actually 100%, or if they. I know he went overseas to get some different kind of treatment that might not be legal here in the States, but allegedly that's kind of the talk around that. But of course that may be changing soon if you guys are keeping up with what's going on in the country. There's going to be some big changes in that regard. And again, it's about football. I'm not saying this for political reasons. It's just there's been a lot of football players across the NFL that have been very, 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 very outspoken about the limitations in our country as far as, new age. I don't think technology is the right word, but just medical advancements.
Alternative medicine, yeah.
That, pharma has really pushed back against. And it sounds like some of that stuff is going to be changed, or at least it's being talked about being changed. You guys know how that goes. But,
and San Francisco needs him right now. They're sitting at 500. This is kind of like do or die time for them. They're either going to turn it around or they're going to continue to slide probably. And I would think, like Drew D is saying right here, McCaffrey probably will be on a snap count. I would agree with that. Yeah. Last thing you want to do is send the guy out and hand him the ball 30 times and, stress it out. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Drew D, CMC is supposed to be on a snap count. Yeah. I can't imagine he just come back to a complete workload for sure. But the Commanders are third at 392 yards per game. The Packers are fourth currently at 390.6 yards per game. And then you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 377.8. On defense, least yards allowed per game. The Titans are still at the top. Tim, isn't it funny how people get so caught up in the yards per game? And then you look up and you see a team like the Titans. It's like you would think they have one of the best defenses in the league.
Nope.
Right. And they're horrible. They're a horrible team. Like, seriously, where are the Titans at in their division? They're 2-6 right now. Third in their division at 2-6. That's why I'm always talking about, like, the points per game is the most important statistic. All of it is important, but the main thing you need to key in on is, like Coach Half was saying earlier in the year to his presser, listen, the name of the game is I don't care how many yards we give up. I don't care how many sacks we get. The only thing that matters is that we win the football game. And that play calling is going to be reflective of the current situation, down distance, and how the game is flowing at that particular moment, that particular week, right? So Titans first in the league in least yards allowed on defense, absolute garbage football team. Texans 281.7, then the Eagles at 290, Jets at 290, and the Chiefs at 293. So Spags continuing to give up minimal yards there as the offense has kind of struggled this year, if I remember correctly, with the Chiefs. I know Patrick Mahomes was on that graphic just a second ago that we showed with Jordan Love, right? And he was significantly lower, right? Let's see here. So he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th in the league as far as EPA per play leaders. So
yeah, not very much ahead of J Love and Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
yeah,
or Stafford. Wow.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's look at our defensive breakdown real quick, Tim, if that's cool with you. This is really cool. They took it a step further. They being at @football_insights on X. And basically what you got is weeks 1 through 9. This is defensive coverages during the 2024 NFL season. And what they also did was they added in blitz rate, okay, and yak percentage as well, okay? So yards after catch percentage. So let's key in on the blitz rate and see where the Packers are, because many people, they'll say you can't get Packers can't get pressures unless they blitz, and so they're going to have to blitz a lot. That's not been the case. They haven't really been keying in on blitz. I'm telling you, if you watch the tape, you can see that this pass rush is a very controlled pass rush. We show it every single week, and when they do fire those fire zone blitzes, they're hitting home. There's no two ways about it.
Look at the rates here. You can see what the percentages, 21% blitz rate. That's on the lower end of the spectrum. If you look at these numbers league wide here, a lot of teams in the 30, near 40% range of blitzing. So we're definitely on the low end.
Yeah. 5. I'm trying to count them off here. There's 5. Let's see. 6. No, 5. 6. Yeah, 6. Looks like there's 6 teams that have a lower blitz percentage than us. So we're in the bottom third in blitz rate. And again, the defense has been playing pretty solid, right? Like, you hold the Lions to 17 points, and I know I'm always going to throw out there it was piss poor in the rain. I got you, but the fact that they've held. I mean, you see it right here. EPA per drop back in the passing game, Tim. They're minus 0.01, which is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10th in the league, 10th or 11th in the league. And when you look at the top of defense they're running, the majority of the time the Packers are playing 72% zone. Okay, so make a mental note of that. They're in one high looks 54% of the time, which tells you if you're playing zone 72% of the time and you're giving those one high looks, you're playing a ton of cover 3. We have that on the other graphic. I'll pull that up real quick just to kind of coincide with it. 31% of the time we're in cover 3 zone defense. 22% of the time we're in cover 1 man. Back to the original. 72% zone, 54% single high. 48% of the time we're showing shell coverage, that 2 high set. And then man coverage, we're 24% of the time playing man coverage. So when you look at that man coverage rate too, Tim, that's probably right in the middle of the pack, wouldn't you say?
Looks like about average, not high or low. And again, I think we see Hafley will call man sets situationally. We don't lean into man coverage and start running man to man, for entire series or anything like that. I do think I've made a comment like this before. You got to be able to play it when you're in that red zone. When you're definitely inside the 10, you're backed up against the goal line. That's when you want to see your man-to-man coverage really be successful. And you want to have guys on the field that can play those man sets because everything's compressed. You've got a shorter field. It's a little bit easier to pick apart a zone when you got no room to spread out. And it's easy for a guy to miss his spot and someone runs open. If you can lock down in man coverage there in those short yard situations, in the red zone on defense, that'll help you. But I love the fact that Hafley is, he's got a system here and it's balanced. We're going to lean zone, which you and I are both fans of. You're going to limit those explosives. But yeah, you mix in some man 24% of the time, keeps these offenses guessing a little bit, keeps them honest.
Yeah. Drudy in the chat said, I won't complain how our defense gets it done with all of our major injuries on defense. Very good point. Like Jair Alexander missing time again. Evan Williams missing time. Definitely been banged up on defense. The thing that worries me about Jai, though, is, you're talking about his last 32 games, missing 50% of the games. That's tough, man. That's a tough statistic for sure. Let's see, CJN, typical Bears season, top defense with the dysfunctional offense. Yeah,
the Bears still suck.
That's going to be the thing to watch when the Packers play the Bears next week. Is their defense, they can hurt you and they can hurt you bad. You got to protect the football. You got to how the Lions played us. The Lions basically came out and said, we're going to let them make the mistakes. Yep. We're going to keep this close to the vest, and we're not going to try to push the ball down the field. That's a good. The fact that some people see that as a negative blows my mind. Like, you don't even throw the ball down the field. That's a good thing. That means they're playing within the scheme of the structure of their offense. They're playing efficiently. They're controlling the clock. They're protecting the football. Yeah. All these things matter more than you jumping up.
It's literally how they beat us.
Right.
All day long. Yeah. I mean, what was their longest pass? 15 yards, something like that.
Probably, yeah. Definitely. So, the Bears have the top pass defense in the league right now, EPA per drop back at minus 0.14. So, got to protect the football coming out of that bye. Now, again, their offense is cheeks, so you got to make them make the mistakes. Let's lean on the run, and let's try to not put ourselves in a bad position there. Obviously playing in Chicago, I don't know how rowdy that crowd will be. I don't know what the weather will look like. I imagine it'll probably be a good chance it'll be windy. So, definitely just be willing to lean on the run, man, and control that clock for sure. Yep. So, all right. So we hit the defensive break. Now, I thought that was really cool that they added in the blitz rate and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, and the far left one too is I think that's average depth of target, if I remember correctly. So it kind of shows you how teams are hitting these defenses as far as how far down the field. The Packers are sitting at 8.3 average depth of target that other teams are attacking them with. And when you look at the Bears, theirs is at 8.7. So it seems like teams are scheming up attacks against the Bears to try to throw the ball, between 8 and 9 yards down the field on average. And when you look at some of the other defenses, like the Giants, teams are just dinking and dunking underneath them, right? 6.7. They got one of the worst defenses in the league, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, their EPA per drop back as far as pass defense is 0.09 allowed. Look at the Cowboys defense, man. Since Dan Campbell left and went to Washington, it's a perfect example of what we were just talking about, right? DC's leaving and teams just going all to hell, right? I mean, that's what happened with the Cowboys for sure.
Yep.
And the Jaguars dead last. So, listen, one of the matchups this week we talked about is the Minnesota Vikings going into Jacksonville. We might not want to watch that one because they're
trap game. Come on, trap game. Let's go, Fabio.
Man, 0.30. That defense is so bad, so bad.
Oh man, no, you're right. If the Jags score 10 points, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's do this. We got probably about 13 minutes left in us. Why don't we hit some PFF positional grades across the league, Tim? Nice. And then we'll continue this on tomorrow's show as well because I just want to get a feel for where each position is ranking across the league. Again, I want to put this full disclaimer out there. We always say PFF isn't everything, guys. You guys hear me. I will complain about PFF just as much as anyone else, but it's a tool that we can use. So I think it's important to kind of lean on it. When you look at quarterbacks, top-graded quarterbacks across the league, we'll just talk top 3, maybe top 5, and then we'll show you where the Packers positions fall in, okay? So let's just go PFF grades across the NFL. All right, so leading the league, Lamar Jackson, 92.6. Next is Joe Burrow at 90.3. Jaden Daniels, Tim, 88.6, bro. That kid is playing lights out, man. Holy cow. You talk about someone who just stepped right in. And here's the other thing to look for with college players coming into the pros. Look for players that are ascending. And what I mean by that is their junior year or their sophomore year, if they come out their junior year, their next to last year in college, they grade, pretty decent. And then the next year, they grade even higher. Like you're seeing them ascend as they step into the league. That's one thing about Jaden Daniels. He got better every year in college, right? Mm-hmm. With Caleb Williams, which I'm looking for Caleb on this list. I'm not seeing him right off the bat. We'll scroll down a minute. With Caleb Williams, you've seen the opposite. Won the Heisman, and then next year really did not play well, right? So it's kind of up and down in that regard. But
I think also with Washington, a credit to what they're doing there. You got Jaden Daniels in a situation where he's not playing paranoid about making a mistake. And they got him in a situation where he can just go out there and cook and play his game. It's a testament to how you're coaching your team and how you're scheming up your offense with a rookie quarterback. A lot of times rookie quarterbacks get handled with kid gloves. They put a lot on their plate and expect them to play mistake-free football, yet they give them too much to think about, too much to diagnose. I think they did an excellent job out there taking a talented guy like Jaden Daniels and just putting him in a position to just play his game. And that's why they're finding success right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Jaden Daniels playing lots out. I see a comment in here. Drew D says, I assume Malik Willis doesn't have enough snaps to qualify. Here's what we'll do just for a quick second, then we'll get back. I should be able to remove the minimum. All right, we're going to remove the minimum requirements, and let's see where Jaden Daniels Malik Willis pops in. So he's sitting at a 77.4. Now, you notice it throws the rankings off. So remember, 77.4, Tim, that puts Malik Willis in right above Kirk Cousins at the number 14 mark or 15 mark. I apologize. Okay, so yeah, so he would rank out 14th. You see Jordan Love is currently 21st. And again, smaller sample size than Jordan's snaps, but that is where Malik Willis would come into play there. Patrick Mahomes up to an 86.4 now. Brock Purdy, 83.2. Derek Carr, 81.4. According to PFF, it's not his fault what's going on in New Orleans right now. Now, again, PFF isn't everything, but Justin Herbert, 80.6. Let's see. Kyler Murray, 80.5, playing some pretty good football. Trevor Lawrence, 80.3. And Geno Smith at an 80.2 is currently where that sits. So, again, Jordan Love coming in at the 21 spot. You want to see that get better, obviously, as the season goes along. I think he will play better in the second half. Me personally, I think we can kind of prepare for that. If we skip to a per game basis here, okay, obviously last year Jordan finished at 83.6 on the year with his PFF grade. I was trying to see if we can see the week by week. They make things very difficult here sometimes. Let's go to premium stats, and it did not pull it up for you guys, so we'll just stay where we're at there. So I was wanting to see the week by week grade. View player page. Here we go. Now, view career and premium stats. And it goes to a different screen. So I'll read it off to you guys. Week by week, Jordan Love's grade, 64.6, 69.9, 44.3. That was a stinker there against LA. 72-1, 72-2, 74-6, 68-3. I'm telling you, man, you remove the pick six in that game, in that monsoon there, Tim. Jordan Love, he's playing pretty good ball right now. I feel like he's starting to get, a little more comfortable as the season goes along. Hopefully that bye week completely heals up that growing injury, though.
Yeah, I hope so. You really hope so. Because I think the more that Jordan can trust his legs, the better off we're going to be. It's going to give him a little bit of that mobility that, I think is a huge testament to his game. If you stick him strictly in the pocket and he's kind of paralyzed back there, and, if that pocket collapses, we see what happens. So hopefully with his legs underneath him allows him to wiggle out, extend these plays like we've seen him do so many times before, and then hit those open targets. So, I think Jordan's going to turn it up coming out of the bye. I agree.
Yeah, and his running grade, now obviously he's been hampered with injuries. Last year was a 59.7. This year it's dropped to a 45.5. So that's hurting the overall grade of touch as well, obviously. So, all right, cool. So there's where Jordan Love ranks in quarterbacks across the league. Let's see, we're at the 113 mark. Why don't we look at running backs? That sound good, Tim?
Yeah, real quick before we move on. Saw this, Nick McSwain. Fabio is not playing, I think.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So no Trevor Lawrence for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That'll certainly make an uphill battle even more uphill, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. That game, like I said, probably don't want to watch that game.
DJN here in the chat. Nick, you're right. He might not be able to go due to the left shoulder here. He might be having season-ending surgery. Yikes.
Wow. You know what? With the way their season's gone, Tim, it's probably a good move. Just go ahead and scrap it. Get ready for the next year. I don't know if Doug Peterson's going to make it to next year.
Who's the backup down there? It's not
no clue.
Huh.
Yeah, I have no idea. We'll turn Jamie loose on it. Jamie in the chat, hit us with that real quick. All right. Running backs across the league. We'll hit this one, and then we'll wrap this big bear up. So, Bijan Robinson, the highest graded player, running back in the league at a 91.2. Then you've got Derrick Henry at 91.2. Kenneth Walker III in Seattle at an 84.5. David Montgomery in Detroit at an 84.5. And then number 5, according to PFF, is our boy Josh Jacobs at an 83.9. Now, I will say this. His weak spot this year has been kind of pass blocking and in the passing game a little bit. Let's see where he ranks strictly by running grade, if it gets any better. So he's 4th in the league at an 86.9 behind Kenneth Walker, Bijan Robinson, and Derrick Henry. So again, man, this Josh Jacobs signing here in the offseason, Tim, it's been one of the stories of the year. Obviously, Xavier McKinney as well. Goody Crush free agency once again, no doubt.
Love it. Let him cook. Let him cook. I will not tolerate Goody slander at all.
And check this out. 14th in the league, our boy Emmanuel Wilson at an 80.0. So that's really exciting. If you sorted it by run grade, Emmanuel Wilson is actually what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9th in the league, Tim. Emmanuel Wilson, running grade. So
that's my dude right there.
Yeah, love Emmanuel Wilson for sure. Let's see if there's any.
We got it figured out in Jacksonville. It's Mac Jones is your QB2. Mac Jones.
Hey.
So wait a minute. Hold on a minute now.
Maybe you just gave Trevor Lawrence all that money. There's not going to be a quarterback controversy. Doug Peterson will be gone before Trevor Lawrence because that owner is attached to Trevor Lawrence at least for a couple of years. But yeah, Mac Jones, his rookie year, played really good football. Yep. And then he loses Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels, another perfect example. Great offensive coordinator. Sucks
not a good head coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Thank y'all for looking that up in the chat. You guys are awesome, man. So yeah.
Right now they're listing them as questionable, I guess. So I believe we had that in the chat too.
One thing we did overlook, Tim, and I really wanted to do it. I wanted to go see where Caleb Williams was on this list because let's climb down.
Scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll find them.
Hey, 32nd in the league, man. There you go.
How many teams are there?
There's 32 last time I checked. There may have been an expansion team overnight. I don't know. But, yeah, Caleb Williams is sitting at a 61. And, not that good, bub. Pass grade of 59.2. I love how they show the trends on the season over here. This is really cool as far as snap counts, especially with different positions. But you can kind of see how many passing snaps. So he threw the ball 54 times last week, 36 the week before, 39 the week before, 39 the week before that, 32. So those games, man, where they're asking him to throw more than 50 times, that's why DJ Moore's just walking off the field mid-play. Right?
That's terrible.
I'm tired of running around here, dude. So, again, Caleb Williams, not that good, bub. And that run grade 70.2. Without that offensive grade probably even worse. So, again, sorry to get off topic there. We were talking running backs, but I think it's important to just see where the number one overall pick is compared to like a Jaden Daniels and some of these other young guys for sure. So, again, Green Bay, Josh Jacobs, 5th in the league in PFF grade for running backs. And then our boy Emmanuel Wilson is 14th at an 80.0. Emmanuel Wilson, too, pretty sure we got rights to him another year, Tim. I'm going to look that up real quick if you want to just talk about that for a second as far as Emmanuel Wilson. I really like the fact that he's starting to step into his own in case running backs get hurt, don't they? You never know when you're going to need them. So
yeah, and we saw that last year with E. He was coming on strong, and I believe it was a shoulder. He had a shoulder injury, took him out for a few weeks, and then we saw him a little bit towards the end of the season. He was one of those guys that we talked about all offseason that we were kind of excited to see how he's going to look out here in 2024. And so far, he hasn't disappointed. I mean, grading out in the 80s, this is great. And I think one of two things that he improved in his game is pass pro, his blocking back there. Mm-hmm. He's also improved his hands in the pass game. Emmanuel Wilson wasn't really known as catching the ball out of the backfield guy, but we've seen him do it in yards after the catch. He's bringing it, and he's a great compliment, certainly, to Josh Jacobs. I like that 1-2 punch. And, I think you're right. I think we have exclusive rights to him.
Yep, we do.
Which means, so let's look at, Marshawn Lloyd and how his rehab's going, and is he going to see the field, and, where the Packers ultimately see him in the future plans. But I would think we offer Emmanuel Wilson another deal, right? I would think we try and keep him around here.
We'll see. Like I said, he's an exclusive rights free agent, so I think he'll be brought back next year, hands down. Like they'll keep him on the roster. I mean, his cap hit this year, guys. Think about. Actually, it was 2024. So he's an exclusive rights free agent again. That's right. So his cap hit this year, Tim, $915,000.
I was just going to say it's got to be less than $1 million. Yeah,
915 against the cap, and the guy is the 14th highest graded running back in the league.
Yeah, so, pay that man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
That's how you put together a solid roster, man. When you're able to shave dollars and cents off like that, for sure.
For sure.
I wanted to get a little deeper in these positions, but obviously we're up against the gun here. Unless we were to go to the 2-hour mark, Tim, I don't know, man. I don't know if you got it in you. I don't know if I do either, to be honest.
No problem. Huh? That ain't no problem.
Well, is that right? No problem? you know what? We're not going to be doing a morning or a night show tonight because of high school playoff football here in Tennessee. So let's do it. Let's keep it rolling. Let's take it to the 2-hour mark. If that's all right with everybody in here. Well, what I mean by that is we're going to go another 40 minutes. Okay. So let's do it. Let's move on to wide receiver. I want to get a real good grab on kind of where everybody's grading at for the Packers across the league. So wide receiver. Okay. Top of the league, Nico Collins now hurt, 92.1. A.J. Brown, 90.2. Justin Jefferson, 87.1. Chris Godwin also hurt, 86.3. T. Higgins, 85.3. I'm pretty sure T. Higgins is hurt too. That's wild. That
Yep.
top
Rasheed Rice is hurt, right?
Yeah, 85.1. So there you go. Let's see where the Packers' first wide receiver comes in. Jaden Reed in the number 40 spot at a 71.6. All right, so 71.6. You want to see it higher. Him grading out the 40 spot. You know, Tim, we talked about if there's a receiver on this team that you would say is the number one, meaning the best receiver on the team. I know I've always sided with Jaden Reed. Like, I feel like it's him. You correct me if I'm wrong. You kind of feel like Romeo Doubs is probably considered a little better than Jaden Reed. I know they do two different things. They play two different positions. But how do you see that as far as it goes with Jaden Reed? Do you think he's the best receiver on this team, or do you think it's not as simple as that because they play two different positions?
Yeah, I don't think it's as simple as that, but I will go as far as to say that I think he's probably the most valuable receiver we have. That if you said, hey, you can only protect one of these guys, who are you keeping around no matter what? I think you got to go with Bird. My second pick would probably be Rome, then Scoot. Then you've got, a bunch of our role players, valuable guys, Tay Wicks, Bo Melton. But Jaden Reed certainly stands alone at the top of the list to me as a guy that you want to keep around, man. He's just a spark plug in this offense in so many different ways. He really is.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Holmes in the chat said, Clayton, are you coaching tonight? No, sir, I don't coach. People have attempted to drag me into coaching, but anyone who listens to this show long enough knows why I'm not in coaching. I'm just not cut out for that, to be honest with you. I love football. I love X's and O's. I love trying to learn about the game, and I got so much more to learn, obviously. But, yeah, I've just you experienced it firsthand here earlier in the show, Holmes. That's why Clayton isn't a coach. I do not have the patience. I don't have the patience for all the hands in the cookie jars within the schooling system, things like that. I just couldn't. Too many cooks in the kitchen, Tim. You know what I'm saying, man? That's
Cooks that don't know what they're doing in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's and listen, I hate being that guy in the stands, especially at the high school level. You're like, what is the coach doing? But man, there's some of these that's just like, bro, you were out here to be seen, and it's so obvious. Like you're not focused on the kids, you're not focused on the fundamentals, the basics.
Yeah,
like it's hard. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, exactly. Holmes said smoke. That's right. And we're not talking about the devil's lettuce either. We're talking about a bad temper. That's why there's no way I could do it, man. And that would
off the damn weed.
not that smoke. Clayton does not smoke. All right. But and there's nothing wrong with smoke. Okay. Let me put that out there too. Do you? All right. It is what it is. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I can't. I think I would lose joy for the game out there trying to coach.
Clayton would be that UL Monroe assistant coach that got in trouble for pushing his O-line around.
Yes, because that's how I was coached, like growing up, and to this day, man. Like, listen, when I played ball, and again I played baseball. When I played ball, I had a coach that's in the Kentucky High School Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. And at the time, by the time I graduated, I was just like, man, I don't like this stuff. Like, it's just, you're so immature as a young person that it's like you can't get it. You know what I mean? 2 years out of high school, it was like, damn, I was an idiot. Why did I not listen? Why did I not take that coaching? He wasn't just trying to help me in Bay. He was trying to help me in life. And to this day, we're still real close. It's just a missed opportunity being young and immature. You can't handle it. And I know that's how I was coached at every level. That's how I would want to coach. And in today's world, you can't coach like that, man. You just can't.
Yep.
You can't do it. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. Jaden Reed, 40th. Again, let's see where the next Packers receiver comes into play. And again, these aren't everything, guys. It's just another tool we can use. Christian Watson tied for 59th at 66.8 is the second highest graded receiver according to PFF for the Packers. Then you go down just a touch to 68 is where Romeo Doubs comes in at 64.9. Then the next receiver for the Packers is Dontavion Wicks at 101. He grades out at a 57.2. So, Tim, Dontavion Wicks obviously taking a huge step back. I think he still has an opportunity to be a great player in the league. The drops have been the main issue. But again, Romeo Doubs, what the PFF is saying, if you said PFF is everything, and I'm going to take it as the gospel, you're saying Jaden Reed is a solid number 2 wide receiver. And again, you're comparatively speaking across the league, okay? Christian Watson is a number 2 receiver. Romeo Doubs is a number 3 receiver. That's what the PFF grades are suggesting here, okay? Again, I don't think that's the case, but do with it what you want. Jaden Reed, according to PFF, is the best receiver on the Packers roster right now. So can you get better at receiver? You can, but I think it's more about these players we got on the roster up in their game as opposed to we need to go out and get a different receiver next year. Does that make sense, Tim? I don't know if you agree with that or not. But.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at it like this. It does. It really does.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Nick McSwain said Clayton can't coach because he's Italian. Exactly. I'm Italian. I'm Irish, is what he's talking about. That was hilarious. We need to get that sound drop put in the show. Me saying I'm Italian. People going, my ass, you're Italian. All right, so that's receiver position. Anything else you want to see there, Tim? Anything catch you off guard? Comments before we move on to tight end?
I guess just the top of the list. A bunch of injured, banged up receivers. So clearly things are they're gonna juggle around these numbers here as the weeks progress.
Yes.
And I fully anticipate guys like Jaden Reed to work their way up this list a little bit. And we'll see how this looks in a month or so.
Yeah. Drew D, don't let Michael Lombardi hear you call yourself a tap, bro. Pat McAfee cracks me up, Tim. I don't know how often you watch his show, but he did a 23andMe test, and he came up to like a 1% Italian. And he's got several Italian friends on the show. Oh, it's such a funny dynamic because he always tries to act Italian around them, and they get so mad. It's hilarious, dude. So obviously Michael Lombardi coming on there. Michael Lombardi's the man, dude. Love that dude. Drew D, I love Pat McAfee. Man, that show is I look forward to it every day, man. There's nothing better. Nothing better for sure. I usually put the replay on while I'm getting ready for the show here. So
nice.
Put you in a nice frame of mind just to get on here and have a good time and not be so Italian, right? So anyway, let's move on to tight end real quick. Tight end, and this may surprise people because obviously Tucker Kraft, we feel like he's having a good year. PFF disagrees, but again, it doesn't mean everything. As the forklift certified here.
Look at all them barrels of yak.
That's right, moving those barrels of yak down the field. So George Kittle, no surprise, man, 88.5. Top graded tight end in the league. Brock Bowers, 86.7. Trey McBride, 79.5. That's been one of the big surprises. You want to talk about why Arizona is starting to turn things around down there in the NFC West. Trey McBride being that safety valve for our boy, what's his name? Kyler Murray. That's obviously a big reason why. Mark Andrews continuing to play well, 78.4. Josh Oliver in Minnesota, been a pleasant surprise there for them. So that's how the tight end, the top 5 shake out across the league. Let's see where Tucker Kraft is coming into play. Tucker Kraft is 42nd right now in the league at a 61.9. Obviously, we feel like he's playing better than that. Now, there have been a lot of mental mistakes. You've seen that on the tape early in the year. Again, when you look at what I like about PFF, they're not saying, hey, Tucker Kraft is not even starting caliber. They're simply grading it out like by consistency, right? That comes into play really, really big here. And Tucker Kraft has been inconsistent. You've seen it on the tape. On the other side of the table, though, Tim, when that dude turns it on, boy, he turns it on. He's a big play waiting to happen, isn't he?
Absolutely. And really, this is year 2, right? So like he's still coming into his own in this league, getting more comfortable every rep, every snap, every week. So I think you'll see the inconsistency start to kind of settle a little bit, and we'll get a better barometer of what he really is going forward long term. I mean, really look at the top of the list right here with George Kittle. That was George Kittle. His first couple of years too was kind of little up and down, little inconsistent. Now this guy's like stamped himself in the upper echelon of tight ends. And I don't think there's any reason to believe that Tuck Norris can't join him up there.
Yeah, definitely. Drew D says, I don't get why they hate Kraft so much. Then he went on to say, yeah, I guess PFF grades consistency above all else. That's the vibe I get. It really is true. Like you can come out and make 3 plays that literally win your team the game. But if the other snaps, if you had 5 bad snaps, you're going to have a very low PFF grade. And what I like about that is that's how coaches grade the game too. Like they'll show, like, you know, the old Lombardi clip or the old clip of Dave Robinson, Hall of Famer that played for Lombardi, making a game-winning play, and he still got a -2 because it was just, you know, it wasn't his assignment. He didn't play it with, you know, even though the play worked out for the Packers, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a positive grade. So, yeah. Holmes in the chat says PFF is certainly flawed. It's just a resource that's a part of many others. Completely agree. That's perfectly said. Again, it's going to have its flaws, and that's why it's important. It's so important to watch the tape. It really is. And the spreadsheet warriors out there, they hate hearing that, right? They obviously refer to us as the tape guys. So, but some people were going, where's Ben Sims, Clayton? Where's Ben Sims? Remember, we talk about the minimal snaps, right? So let's remove the minimal snaps and see where Ben Sims comes into play here. I hate that I have to keep widening that out, but here we go. Ben Sims for the Packers is grading out at a 68.0. All right, so significantly higher. Now, if we remove the minimum snaps, remember 68 for me. Let's see where he would grade out across the league with that 68. The 68, that would put Ben Sims in the number 20 spot, Tim. So, again, limited snaps, but every opportunity Ben Sims has got. This is a perfect example, Drew, of what we were just talking about. Ben Sims has played more consistent than Tucker Kraft. There's no two ways about it. Yep. Smaller sample size. If he had the same amount of snaps as Tucker, if the snaps were flipped, you'd probably see Ben Sims' grade come down, I would imagine. But based off what we've seen, Tim, I think we got a solid tight end. Isn't it funny as we're doing this, why we do these exercises? Halfback Emmanuel Wilson, he'll be back next year, exclusive rights free agent. Ben Sims, I'm almost positive, will be back as well because they still have him under contract, I think, if I remember correctly, through next year. So that's a guy that's going to be a big contributor moving forward, man. It's nice to know you got him in your back pocket along with Emmanuel Wilson.
Yeah, for sure. And when you talk about the tight ends, it sets the tone for Luke Musgrave to come back strong and to start to play at the top of his game. He's been a little underwhelming, and I think there's a spot for him in this offense going forward as well. And Ben Sims, Tucker Kraft, and Luke Musgrave. I feel pretty solid about our tight end room, and these guys can make each other better. And as you see Ben Sims kind of step it up, that's got to be motivation for Luke Musgrave to kind of get it together and come out here and be a force.
Yeah. So again, his 68 PFF grade, offensive grade, 65 receiving, 64.5 run blocking. What's really cool is like last year, 60.5, not bad, right? This year he jumps to a 68. So you're seeing that improvement.
And he's got that. Go back up to the top there, man. He's got that perm mullet game going strong too, man. That's what
got a strong jawline and everything.
Yeah, that's a tight end right there. I like it.
I love that our tight end room's turned into like a frat house. Him and Tucker Kraft.
I'm sure Coach LaFleur loves that too. Yeah,
exactly. I bet he loses sleep at night wondering what those two knuckleheads are going to do today. But this is what's really cool when you look at his snap count. Week 1, only 1 snap. Week 2, it jumped to 6. Week 3, you had 2. Week 4, 2. Right. And then week 5, he jumps to 12 snaps. I'm sorry, not 12, actually 19 total snaps. Week 6, he jumps to 28. Week 7, steps back to 16. Week 8, 25 snaps. Last week, only 12 snaps. Okay. So it's obvious they leaned on 11 personnel more than they did 12 last week against the Lions.
And that doesn't say anything about Ben Sims. It says everything about the game plan.
Yeah, about scheme. Exactly.
Yep.
So, but the big thing is here from week 5 to week 9, you see a significant increase as opposed to the first 4 weeks of the season. So they're seeing the same thing that PFF's seeing, they being the Packers, and we're seeing it too. Like, okay, this dude's earning more snaps. And thankfully so, because like I said, Luke Musgrave's still injured. It's going to be a little bit. I think it was Matt Schneidman tweeted this out earlier in the week. Luke Musgrave had ankle surgery rather. LaFleur says he has missed the last 5 weeks while on IR, hoping to get him back later in the season. Much different approach as opposed to Marshawn Lloyd is coming off IR pretty soon here, hopefully. So sounds like Luke Musgrave will probably be in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season if he has a chance of coming back. It's just nice to know that Ben Sims can fill in that.
And I would expect a pretty heavy dose of Ben Sims and Tucker Kraft here against the Bears. Against that Bears defense, we got to get our tight ends involved for sure.
Yeah, I could see that. And as we move forward, here into next week, we're going to dive into the tendencies of the Chicago Bears, right? We're going to talk about what personnel they run the most, the top 2 personnel on offense, and where their EPA rankings are in that regard. Same thing on defense, how they handle certain looks, all that good stuff. So, all right, let's move on to center. Oh, look away for a second. This one hurts. The number 1 graded center in the league is Creed Humphrey. Obviously was taken 1 pick after Josh Myers. But that dude is he's tracking to go down as one of the better centers in the history of the game. He's just a man amongst boys out there. 93.6 elite PFF grade. Ooh. Tyler Linderbaum, you remember us talking about him in the draft?
Yep.
86.1. Really good grade there. Aaron Brewer for the Dolphins. Don't know who that is. Sound like a school teacher. 85.2. Right? Solid grade. Zach Frazier. Remember that name, Tim?
Sounds like a boxer. Yeah.
Was that in the most recent draft, Tim? Zach Frazier? Yeah. He was my second highest graded center in the draft, Zach Frazier. And, I remember this specifically too. Me and Mike Wall talking about this off air. Zach Frazier, I'm pretty sure, was the guy that had the wrestling background. One of the guys that had a wrestling background. Wrestling background, man. I asked Mike, I'm like, so is that important? Oh, yeah. You get a guy that's got a wrestling background, man. They understand leverage. So,
yep.
Zach
hand
Frazier.
Position and playing with your legs underneath you and not getting tipped over. And, for sure.
Frank Ragnow with the Detroit Lions, 81.5, the 5th highest graded center. Joe Tipman with the Jets. That's interesting. That name sounds familiar. Let's see if he was in the most recent draft. It might have been the year before, though. I think it was the year before. Yeah, I don't have him on my interior offensive lineman list. So I think Tipman must have been the year before. You guys correct me if I'm wrong there in the chat. Froholt, 70.7 for the Cardinals. Buffalo Bills, Connor McGovern, 70.7. Brady Christensen for the Panthers, 69.1, so on and so forth. So let's see where Josh Myers comes in. On the PFF grades, he's 34th at a 49.9 currently. Listen, it's been a rough year. Josh lost his dad, obviously. I couldn't imagine going out there and trying to compete at a professional level after losing my father. It was hard enough for me to function this year. Not having to deal with all the pressure of being a professional athlete when I lost my brother. It was tough. I don't want to pile on, but this has been a problem before this year too, right? And now the thing about Josh that's frustrating is he's one of the best pass blocking centers in the game, right? I mean, if we go by pass blocking amongst centers, Josh Myers is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in the league according to PFF. And it's not just been this year, Tim. He's been a solid pass blocker his entire career.
May explain why we get away from the run and we lean pass so much, especially on early downs.
Yeah, it could play a role. But again, running is important, obviously. And the big thing, people were going, Clayton, once he struggled with running. When we run duo or when we run a play where he's getting to the next level with some kind of zone run, he's got all the athleticism in the world. But when he gets there, he just can't – he's not a sticky blocker, on what we call impact blocking on the move, right? Pass blocking, I've heard a lot of people, Tim, say, why don't they play him at guard? And I always roll my eyes at that, but it does kind of make sense a little bit. What if you did play him at guard and you've seen that run blocking go up? I don't know if it would, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with playing center. I mean, you've seen it with Elton. Granted, it was a monsoon, but Elton struggled with the snaps, and
people hasn't played center in a while. Yeah,
it's going to take time, right? So, Josh Myers here, man. Again, I don't want to pile on, but it just feels like you probably need to try to find his replacement. Many people think Elton Jenkins is his replacement. You kick him to center, you keep Jordan Morgan in the starting lineup, and whether it's Sean Ryan moving forward at left guard or it's Jordan Morgan at left guard and Sean Ryan at right guard, kind of feels like Elton Jenkins is the center of the future. That was information coming out last season too. I remember specifically in year they said they have their center of the future already in the building. kind of feels like that's probably going to be Elton. But anything you want to add to Josh Myers? I know we don't want to pile on, but
no. And I think, like you said, the PFF numbers, it points to the inconsistencies, right? If you're not consistent, and that's one of the things, we're not going to dump on him, but Josh has not been consistent. You see games where he looks like an absolute freak of nature out there, and then you see games where he's whiffing and getting pancaked, and it doesn't look good. So that's probably explains the low grading. Me personally, as far as Elton Jenkins playing center, I don't have a problem with it, but I think it's been said before that Elton prefers playing guard. Like if his comfortability means anything out there, he'd probably rather play left guard than center. Obviously, the guy's going to do whatever's best for this team, and if we need him out there as the center, then that's where he's going to be. I think there's validity to what you're saying. We brought Jordan Morgan in here. Sean Ryan, we're in year 3 of the Sean Ryan experiment. See if these guys can hold up at left and right guard, put Big E at center consistently. I bet you the snaps look a little better. He finds his rhythm, knowing that he's playing center on a consistent basis rather than kind of floating back and forth. So we'll see what the bye week does, though. Hopefully Josh is better. I believe it's the wrist injury or something he was dealing with that's been holding him out. So maybe we get him back and we get this O-line that we had earlier this year clicking and things look better. But I think you're right. Long term, Elton Jenkins is definitely the contingency plan for center for sure.
Yeah. Holmes in the chat says, perhaps I love Jenkins and he can play everywhere. He would need reps. Monk may be good there too. They were really high on Monk coming out of college. I do. So who knows, man? Monk might work into that. I kind of feel like Monk's going to be, and I could be wrong. I don't have like any inside information to suggest this, but based off what they've done in the past, it kind of feels like Monk's going to be that guy that sits on the bench for a year or two, and then all of a sudden he's competing for a job. Like think Sean Ryan, think Rasheed Walker.
Rasheed Walker, I was just going to say, yeah.
I could see it being something like that because he said a full year, didn't hardly get any snaps, and he's starting left tackle the next year. Box hurt, and they haven't looked back. So I could see Jacob Monk being that. And who knows? Maybe they get an off-season program. He does something, physically as far as his training. They're impressed with it. They go, let's try him at center. Now we can leave Elton at left guard. That could be the case too. And that thought or that comment that came out last year that people within the building, meaning part of the Packers staff, said they have their center of the future in the building, they could have been talking about Jacob Monk. We don't know, right? And that is very fluid for sure. So we'll see though, man. Again, center, I consider it tier 2 of importance on offense. On offense, I've only got left tackle or blind side if you're a lefty, like Tua, right tackle is most important, right? But obviously Jordan Love being a right-handed quarterback, left tackle, blind side, top priority, and then quarterback, obviously top priority. Those two are tier 1 in my opinion. Center tier 2, and I don't consider any other position on offense being tier 2. I really don't. Yeah. Right tackle, I know some would argue is just as important as left tackle. I got you. I'm glad Zach Tom is so solid there. It's obvious the Packers see that as really, really important, or else they would have kicked Zach Tom to left tackle and just threw someone else at right tackle. So, we'll see, man. What's up, Daryl? Good morning to you, buddy. We're just in here talking a little Packers way longer than we should, but that's what football geeks do. So, all right, let's move on to guard since we were kind of hitting on guard a little bit. Let's see how we're looking at the guard position. I think what we'll do, Tim, we'll probably do offense today, and then tomorrow we'll do defense if that's cool with you.
Sounds good.
I like this deep day. Do you like this format, like kind of seeing where they rank across the league?
I do, because we see things so one-dimensionally a lot of times. We watch the majority of film we watch is Packer film. We're a Packer pod. We're Packer fans. When you compare our guys up against everybody else in the league, it kind of gives you a different perspective. And again, this is just PFF. It's not everything, but I think it's great. I like this.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the guard position. So the top graded guard, according to PFF in the NFL, is James Daniels with Pittsburgh, 92.9. Will Fries with the Colts, 86.9. Joe Tooney with the Kansas City Chiefs just continues to play well, 86.1. Chris Lindstrom, 85.2 for the Falcons. Quentin Nelson for the Colts, 84.9. All right. Let's see where the first green – whoa, that was pretty colors there. Let's see where the first Green Bay Packers guard comes in on the list here. So you've got Sean Ryan 47th at a 61.5. They've got Elton Jenkins 50th at 60.2. That would suggest that both of these guards are starting caliber, right? Obviously being 64 guards that start across the league every single week. But the Elton Jenkins one really kind of catches you off guard. His run blocking is what struggled there too. 83 pass blocking, run blocking 54.9. I will say this. Something I've kept my eye on here. And Sean Ryan, listen, that's awesome that Sean Ryan's grading out in the 60s, in my opinion. He's been playing a lot better this year than he did, obviously, last year.
It's also awesome that you said caught us off guard when talking about guard. That was great.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even mean it, right? So the thing that I want to really key in on, Tim, is we're noticing the run blocking grades for the Packers, according to PFF, are all extremely low, right? They're one of the worst run blocking teams in the league, according to PFF. Yet we've got running backs that are just dominating. I think, just like with the pass rush, people throw up the PFF pressure numbers and the PFF pass rush grade, and you'll hear me say from time to time, guarantee you PFF gave them a horrible grade on that play, even though you could tell they're not truly rushing the quarterback. They're occupying two blockers, kind of working into a throwing lane. I think that's a real issue at PFF. I really do. And the main issue is that they're not completely like transparent about it. They're not telling you, hey, here's what we've seen on this play. Here's what we've seen in this game. They're just kind of throwing these numbers out there and going, nope, you're not allowed to know who's evaluating the play. You're not allowed to know what specific plays got horrible grades. It's just kind of into the ether, right? What I'm getting at is I think that they don't truly understand at PFF what Matt's asking these guys to do in the run blocking. And the reason being is you can't have that much of a difference in running back grade and run blocking grade. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. So let me give you an example. When you run split flow, something that is also known as slice or split zone, essentially what you've got is the offensive line is zone blocking in one direction, and in that direction, the tight end on that side is coming back across the formation to block the end that's unblocked, okay? So to give you an example, if they're blocking left and you see a guy slips a block, but the running back uses a cutback lane to gash a big play, which we've seen in the past, both last year, the year before with Aaron Jones, I can see how PFF will go, oh, he didn't block that guy. Bad run blocking rep. But Matt LaFleur may be telling his guys within the scheme, if that guy's on your outside shoulder, just let him go. We're going to use the cutback. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I wonder if there's some of that goes into the run blocking. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does. It's almost like we talk about on the D-line when we talk about, we're not always blitzing. We're not always trying to get a sack on the quarterback. There's technique to this. Yeah. I think it's true.
And I think it's why former players roll their eyes at PFF. Mike Wall being one, there's multiple guys. Mm-hmm. Everybody, any former player that goes on the McAfee show, they scoff at PFF. And their main thing is always, we don't know what the play call was. I push back a little bit because I go, yeah, we do. I could show you that's a cover 3 zone match. You can see it, right? But what they're getting at is you don't know exactly what the coach has told them on that specific play. And it changes from play to play. Like if they're in a dub set, if they're in a 2x2 set, and you call a specific zone match, even though we can tell that zone match because of the route concept that was ran, the passing concept that was ran, yeah, you can pick it up there. But they may have been told on another play where you see them completely drop that route, the coaches may have told them, look, yeah, we're playing zone match here, and you're supposed to cover to this point. But if it's an end breaker, just let that go. And you'll go, oh, he blew his coverage. But we truly don't know what the DC was telling them because they were expecting a different look out of trips or Trey as opposed to 2x2 sets. So I think you get a little bit of that in the run game too. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of –
It does. It makes me think of Chris Brooks, with the Rolex play we broke down, last week. It's like I'm sure he got –
What did they grade him? Yeah.
Crap grade on that for sure, but it's like that play won us the game.
Right. So. And listen, it's not to bash PFF. They may have a criteria that they're like, look, if we start allowing this and that to sway the grade because we know this, it's going to make everything convoluted. I just wish they were more transparent about, hey, here is how we grade exactly, because there is some blurred lines there. But again, anytime you can get multiple sets of eyes on every single snap in the league, I want that information, whether it may be right or wrong. That's where you can look into the tape and go, I disagree with that. But I love it as a good base of information. Jordan Morgan grading out 54th, Tim. He's right on that cusp, the cusp of that 60 PFF grade. He's sitting at 59.2. We talk about as a rookie. If you can grade out in the 60s, you're good to go. I'm feeling a lot better about the Jordan Morgan pick. What about you?
I am too. And, they've been moving him around too. We'll kind of see where he settles in and finds a home on this O-line. But this is where you want a rookie to be grading out.
Yeah. And did he play left guard last week, Tim? Am I thinking right, man?
He did. I believe so, because Elton went to center. So
that's what I was thinking. So
that might be the move, man. Him at left guard, Big E at center, and then you got Sean Ryan as your right guard. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I'm going to try to pull this up in a separate window. You guys won't be able to see it, but I want to see how he graded out. Actually, you guys, it did pull that up, didn't it? Let's see here. Premium stats, blocking. All right. I want to see. So that last game, here we go. You can see the snaps and where he played. Well, you guys can't see it. I can. I apologize. So last week he did against Detroit. He played left guard, 65 snaps. Okay. So he's played right guard all year long until last week. Let's read it off grade by week here for Jordan Morgan. Let me scroll this up so you guys aren't just staring at random numbers. You know who we're talking about. So week 1, 67.7. Week 2, 48.5, 49.9, 57.4, 71.7 against Jacksonville, and then 62.6 against Detroit. So what you've seen, Tim, is the last 3 weeks, actually the last 5 weeks, he's gotten better.
Yep.
48.5, 49.9, 57.4, 71.7, and then took a slight step back at 62.6. So his best grade this year, only 22 snaps, but against Jacksonville at right guard, 71.2. And then last week, he stabilized at left guard at 62.6. So I don't know if Myers will miss this next game. I kind of feel like they would have put him IR if they thought he was going to miss significant time. So I imagine he would definitely be, he being Jordan Morgan, would be way more comfortable at left guard.
Yeah, I agree.
I
agree. And this is where, like we talked about, man, first round pick, we were excited on draft night when we went this route. And I think if you look at how he's trending right now, this is the right direction for a rookie, especially a guy who played predominantly tackle, played on left tackle, I believe, at Arizona. So him coming to the NFL and getting moved around and still grading out near, close to 60 is good. And we'll see how many more snaps he gets. He's going to get peppered into that lineup more. He's a first-round pick. You already know we're going to make him an integral role on this offensive line going forward. So keep your eyes peeled for Jordan Morgan for sure.
Yeah. I like what Fred McFarley says here too. I like him at left guard. I imagine it would be easier to kick the left tackle should Walker get hurt mid-game.
Bingo.
You're getting kind of that consistent reps, working to your left, working to your left, working to your left. If you do have to fill in at left tackle in a pinch, that's a great observation, Fred.
It really is. Because it's easier to go from guard to tackle on the same side of the field than it would be to go, take a left tackle and move them to the right. A lot of times people think, oh, you're a tackle, you can play. It's like, nah, it doesn't usually work that way.
Yeah. And it, like Mark Tauscher said, he said, for those fans that say you can just play left and then right, he said, I got a challenge for you tonight. Go home, try to wipe your rear end with the opposite hand. That's what it's like trying to block on the opposite side of the line.
Yeah.
Said, and Tausch, that's a little graphic, but I get the point. Must be different. Must be difficult. All right, last position. We got 6 minutes. We're going to do this. Thanks for hanging out a little longer, Tim. This is fun, man.
Sure, man.
All right, let's go left tackle, or let's go tackle position in general. Terran Armstead in the NFL, 91.1 in Miami. He's the top graded tackle. Jordan Mailata in Philly, 88.4. Penei Sewell in Detroit, 87.5. Rashawn Slater, 86.4 with the Chargers. Charles Cross with the Seahawks, 84.6. Trent Williams, 84.4 with the Niners. And then our very own Zach Tom Moneybags McGee, going to be getting a bag here in a year or two, 83.3. Got a pass blocking grade of 81.9 and run blocking grade of 84.6. So PFF likes what they see from him, Tim. So probably the only guy on the Packers offensive line that they give a good run blocking grade to. But
and here's the thing too. What did we talk about? Consistency, right? Zach Tom is probably the most consistent player on that offensive line. So it makes sense. that he's
even more so than Elton Jenkins, right?
Yep, for sure.
I feel comfortable saying that. All right, let's see where the next tackle is going to be. Rashid, where he's going to come into play. Rashid Walker's grade now is the 50th best tackle right now at 63.1. He's got a pass block grade of 80.0. That run block grade, though, 85.6. Again, I'll tell you this, what I was getting at earlier, and I kind of got off topic. When I said this about PFF's run blocking grades for the Packers, if the Packers re-sign Josh Myers to an extension, then we know for sure that there is something to this this flaw in PFF's ability to grade the run blocking aspect of the Packers, because that would say you'd have to look up and go, okay, the only thing telling us that Josh Myers is a bad center is his run blocking. He's got the snap stuff down now. That was an issue. That was a real issue, right? And he's got that cleaned up now. If we look at the run block or the running grade for these running backs, and they have the Packers with 2 in the top 15, one of which is a top 5 back in Josh Jacobs. And you see the statistics. He's 4th in the league in rushing, whatever it is, right? You see all those line up. And then the only negative aspect we have to our running game is the PFF run blocking grade. And then the Packers go and throw extra money at Josh Myers to keep him. I have got to then accept the fact that PFF doesn't understand how to grade the run blocking for the Packers. Does that make sense? Because now you've got money backing it. You've got statistics backing it. You've got, you can't just continue to side with one website like that. Right? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Because think of how the coaches are grading their own guys. They got to be using multiple factors, multiple indicators. So like you said, PFF has their method, whatever their methodology is. We're just saying it's not the be all to end all. And you're right. Money talks, BS walks, right? So we'll see what the Packers do here going forward. Should give us our answer.
Yep. All right. Let's see if there's another tackle that makes the list real quick. I don't think there is. It looks like they got 76 there, so we won't go minimum requirements. I don't even know if we played another tackle. We haven't, have we? Our guys, we've been really healthy at the tackle position. Very blessed in that regard this year. So There you go. All right. So those are your offensive PFF grades and kind of where the Packers rank this season, just to kind of get an idea of where everybody's sitting. Is it starting caliber? Is it not? That type of thing. So we're kind of back to where we were a couple of years ago, feeling like the Packers don't have a true number 1 wide receiver. They've got a room full of number 2s as far as comparing the grades across the league. So there you go. Look, Dane hopping in here. Good morning, Posse, and we're getting ready to wrap up, Dane. I'm sorry. Been going for 2 hours, and Dane hops in. All of a sudden, we're out of here. So let's see what Daryl said. Daryl says, Josh Myers has not been a disappointment on the offensive line. He works his butt off to keep that center job. Yeah, again, it's been a very hot-button topic. Here's the way I look at it, Daryl. If you can do better, go get better. And what you don't want to do is overpay for good. You're willing to overpay for great. So you've got to ask yourself, is Josh Myers a great center? I personally, and you may disagree, and that's okay, I personally don't think he's a great center. Based off what I'm seeing, it looks like he's an above average to good center, and you just can't overpay for good. You're willing to overpay for Zach Tom. He's a great player, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's like Xavier McKinney. No one thinks you overpaid for Xavier McKinney, but you're willing to because he's a great player. Josh Jacobs, you're willing to overpay because he's a great player. You're just not willing to overpay for those. That's why, like with me and Rashawn Gary, I see Rashawn Gary as a great player. Many Packer fans don't. I see him as a great player. You're willing to overpay because it's a tier 1 position of importance, and I think he's a great player. Is he having a down year? Absolutely. But if you're saying, okay, he had one down year, let's cut him loose. Now you have no edge defenders on your team. You're throwing out what is this year a very good player when we've seen that his ceiling is a great player, if that makes sense. So we just haven't seen that with Josh. I haven't seen him play great. I don't know if that makes sense. So,
it does. It does. We've seen flashes. We've seen some nice plays from Josh. But yeah, you're right. It's nothing that's jumping off the charts, putting him in the upper echelon.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, you got anything else?
I don't think they'll overpay for him, though. You know what I mean? I'm sure it'll reflect the output. He'll get good money, pay good money for good. And
you'll get a comp pick, right? I'm pretty sure you'll get a comp pick for that too. So, if he does leave and someone else overpays. I think that's the move, is let him test the market. And, we get into the offseason, we'll start putting actual numbers to these, like, okay, here's what I think he's worth. I mean, just right off the cuff, if you were to say, okay, Clayton, what's the maximum you'd be willing to pay Josh Myers right now if you decided to bring him back? The number that's popping in my mind is like $5 million per, no more than that.
It's also going to be the years too, because I'm assuming Josh is going to want like an extended type of contract. I don't know how much the Packers are willing to long term. 3 years maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Fred McFarley says, hit him with that Jair video. He said, waited and waited, but the show didn't suck. I apologize, Fred. I'm sorry for letting you down there, buddy. But sometimes the show isn't so bad. And other people in the chat said, I respectfully disagree. All right. We're out of here, guys. Appreciate y'all. Again, no show tonight. We're going to be going to some high school playoff football. We'll be back tomorrow morning for Good Morning Lambeau again. Then we'll do an evening show Saturday night. Probably do 2 shows on Sunday as well. Still going to do a pregame show, Tim. I think what I'd like to do is get up and just kind of do a kickoff show for the week, type thing. I think that would be fun. Kind of get everybody ready for the games coming up. We'll see how everything comes into play, though. Again, if you guys want to join our Patreon community, scan the QR code in the upper right. They'll send you to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Tim, thanks for hanging out, man. This was fun.
This is awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Be back at it tomorrow, man. Tomorrow.
That's right, man. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go, Pack, go.